Yes. Let's check out the Army's new Jeep, shall we? It's Nick's new video about the ISV. Are we ready? Let's do this.
According to General Eisenhower, the four weapons that helped America the most in winning World War II were the C-47, the bazooka, the atomic bomb, and the Jeep. Today we're talking about the Army's new Jeep, the Infantry Squad Vehicle, aka the ISV.
Okay. Oh!
All right, here's the deal. This video is a little bit different than usual because I got the opportunity to go out and do some unusual stuff. I got to go out to Fort Campbell with the 101st Airborne Division, and I got to see the ISV firsthand with my buddy Ethan, Mr. Habitual Line Crosser here on YouTube, and my buddy Zach, veteran with a sign.
You would not believe how many places there are to put crayons. There's so much room for activities.
We were filming an episode of...
Because of fucking course. Because of course.
of our Pepperbox exclusive show called Habitually Fat, where me and Ethan go out and we tour military museums, historic sites, and we go out to military bases. If you want to go check that out after this, I'll have a link with a free trial down below. Anyways, going...
Zach, veteran with the sign, is a Marine. He likes his, he likes crayons, especially the orange flavored ones. The orange ones are the best, apparently.
Into this, I had some reservations. I've seen pictures of the ISV. I think it's really cool looking, but also I've got some reservations. Like, I don't know how fun it would be to roll into combat in a dune buggy with no doors, no windows, and no armor. So today, we're not just going to look at the ISV. We're going to look at the Jeep and the Humvee as well, so we can understand the historic precedent that has led us to the point that the Army is now procuring what amounts to warthogs from the Halo video game. And it's probably going to get pretty unhinged somewhere along the way. Regardless, we're going to get to it right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Element. Okay, we're not going to overcomplicate this. It's just a hydration packet, okay? You buy a box, it's got a bunch of sticks inside of it, you pour that inside of your water, and then next thing you know, your piss is clear. They've got a bunch of different flavors. They've got citrus, watermelon, they've got a spicy one, they've got some chocolate ones that you can mix with hot water and it tastes like hot chocolate, but my favorite is the lemonade. Are there other hydration products on the market? Absolutely, but I like Element the most, so much so that I actually approached them to sponsor me because I've been using them forever. Why? Because there's no bullshit involved with it, okay? It's not like Gatorade or Liquid IV where it's got a bunch of sugar and artificial food dye and micronutrients and B vitamins and all that horse shit. No, I don't need any of that. When my fat ass is sweating, salt is sweaty, I'm losing salt, give me more fucking salt. And that's all Element is. It's salt, magnesium, and potassium. I'll even read the ingredient list for you. Salt, magnesium, potassium, natural lemon flavor, stevia extract, fucking the end. And the cool part about that is if you're doing some type of diet like keto or intermittent fasting where you're actually spending periods of time where you're fasting, you can drink this and it won't break your fast, and not a lot of products do that. Or if you're like me and you drink too much sometimes and you don't like being hungover, it's great for that too. Anyways, if you want to give the Element a try, you're gonna get a free sample pack whether you're a new customer or a returning customer when you use my link down below. That's drinklmnt.com/Fat Electrician. Let's get back to the video. All right, 1941, World War II, Germany is occupying North Africa. Being so far away from Germany, they are heavily relying on airplanes for most of their logistical support to be able to move supplies and men around the country. Because of this, the British SAS, specifically Major Sterling and the legendary Paddy Mayne, who I may or may not be doing a video on soon, come up with the idea of attacking these German airfields, destroying their planes, thus crippling their logistics. And the first time they attempt to do this, they use the conventional knowledge of the time. They conduct an airborne operation. They drop 64 paratroopers right outside the airfield. The problem with that is everybody knows the conventional knowledge and the conventional tactics, right? Those airfields are covered with anti-aircraft guns, and by the time those airplanes come, the troops jump out, they float to the ground, they get out, the Germans are ready, and they're there to defend, and it was a complete disaster. Out of the 64 men that conducted that raid, only 22 survived. It is at this point that Major Sterling realizes this isn't gonna work, we gotta do something different. They need to figure out a new strategy to be able to get inside of these airfields, hit them hard, fast, and be gone before they even know what happened. To do this, they turn to a new American invention, the Jeep, the first ever mass-produced four-wheel drive off-road vehicle. They cover it with machine guns and modify it to perform better in the desert. Then the tactic becomes driving quietly at night up to these airfields, identifying where they're at, parking the Jeeps, dismounting, going into the airfields, sneakily planting explosives on a bunch of the planes, going back to the Jeeps, detonating the bombs, and then taking the Jeeps that are covered in machine guns, by the way, driving them straight down the center of the airfield and shooting shooting absolutely everything else that wasn't blown up.
Nice!
Stop shooting everything.
Then driving right out the other end of the airfield and disappearing into the night. Literally doing drive.
I mean, it's the Jeeps, like, they're not like, you know, Jeeps are Jeeps, and like, it's just like, the Willys Jeep became the fucking Jeep that is sold on the general market that you buy today. Granted, there's been a lot of changes since World War II, but comparatively speaking, they are quiet. It's not like they have like these monster engines in them that are just like roaring down the road. They were, of course not. they were just gunner cars.
Everyone knows Jeep stands for just empty. Every pocket or just equip essential parts. My first car was a 98 XJ. I loved it.
Really, Tornado. Okay. Well, I mean, Silver, comparatively speaking to the rest of the war machines that were in, you know, that were being utilized at the time, yeah, a Jeep was quiet. It was like a car. It was just a four-wheel drive. It was a four-wheel drive car. So, yeah, relatively speaking, yeah, it was quiet.
Buys with Jeeps, but instead of a sideways Glock out of a window, it was twin Vickers machine guns. And this new tactic worked incredibly. On a good night, they were able to destroy between 30 and 40 German airplanes. Between 1941 and 1943, they conducted dozens of raids on over 30 German airfields, destroying up to 400 enemy aircraft during that time period, and the Germans started calling Major Sterling the Ghost Major.
Like Baba Yaga.
This crippled the German logistics and helped lead to the fall of North Africa. And that is just one of many of the incredible contributions that the Jeep made to World War II. So what is the Jeep? Well, in 1939, the American government looked at what was going on over in Europe and kind of figured that there's a war probably on its way. We should start getting ready. One of the most important things they identified that they needed was a light all-terrain vehicle that they could use for scouting operations and general moving soldiers around the battlefield. In World War I, militaries still relied heavily on horses, Model Ts, and motorcycles, and for scouting operations, moving into enemy territory, a Model T just wasn't that good to go off-roading in, neither was a motorcycle, and horses were a humongous logistical strain because when you dismount, you got to leave somebody with the horses, you got to have a bunch of hay for them, the horses can get sick, it was just a nightmare. So basically they wanted a small light vehicle that could go anywhere and do anything. At this point in time, nothing like this had ever been really created or at least mass produced at scale, so they contacted 185 different companies to see if they would be interested in making a prototype, and only 3 responded: American Bantam, Willys Overland, and Ford. And the crazy part is the American government didn't just want these companies to build a new vehicle that the world had never seen from the ground up. They wanted a functioning prototype in 49 days.
You're going to say it's impossible, and then you're going to do the math in your head and say
Something like the overtime alone will be a nightmare.
The overtime alone will be a nightmare.
Get started.
Which is absolutely crazy to not only design but manufacture a functioning prototype in 49 days, yet one of the 3 companies manages to do it: American Bantam. They create the BRC, the Bantam Reconnaissance Car. It gets delivered 30 minutes before the deadline, goes into testing, and the Army testers said it was one of the best vehicles they had ever tested and vastly exceeded any expectations they had. So naturally, American Bantam gets the
And by the way, can we just appreciate this still shot of a Jeep going fucking airborne with an artillery piece attached to the fucking hitch? Okay? This artillery piece is also catching some fucking air. Whoever this photographer is that took this shot is fucking based as hell.
And vastly exceeded any expectations they had. So naturally, American Bantam gets the contract, and that's who manufactures Jeep today. No, I'm just kidding. Apparently, the contract was to develop a functioning prototype, meaning the Army now owns that prototype, and they can do whatever the fuck they want with it. And American Bantam was a small company that wasn't going to be able to mass produce at scale, so they actually take the plans for the Bantam car and give it to Ford and Willys as well, and all 3 of them start manufacturing this new vehicle. And naturally, because Ford and Willys were much bigger companies than American Bantam, they ended up producing way more, and Bantam kind of ended up producing the trailers more so than the...
Wait. What did I say? What did I say? I said the photographer, right? But Oh, fuck. Now I'm second guessing myself. What the hell did I say? Photographer. Yeah. Yeah, the photographer that took that shot. Okay. So I did say photographer. You guys got me thinking I said videographer. Okay, I didn't say photographer. It was filmed not for. But was that shot that we saw part of the video, or was that an actual photograph being taken? Because that looked too clear to be a still frame from a video. That looked like it was taken by an actual photographer, not someone taking video and then stop it and then basically taking one frame out of it and display. It was a frame from the filmer. Okay. It looked too clear to me. That's why I thought it was a photograph, not a video. Like a frame from the video. It looked way too clear. That's why I said.
Ended up producing way more, and Bantam kind of ended up producing the trailers more so than the Jeeps themselves.
You're doing great. Yeah, so good.
So yeah, American Bantam kind of got fucked. Anyways, so how did it go from the BRC to the Jeep? Well, at this point in time, the term Jeep wasn't actually the name of the vehicle. It was a slang term used in the military to describe a new recruit that was inexperienced or a new piece of equipment that was untested. So as the soldiers started getting these new vehicles, they started referring to them as Jeeps because it was the new untested vehicle. And around the same time, the Popeye comic and TV show had a new character introduced known as Eugene the Jeep, just by pure coincidence. And Eugene the Jeep was this mythical dog-like creature that could walk through walls, he could find anyone. Basically, he could go anywhere and do anything. So when magazines and newspapers started doing articles about this new vehicle that the troops were referring to as the Jeep, which really just meant the new untested thing, people back home were reading these magazines and newspapers and immediately associating it with this mythical dog that could go anywhere and do anything. It was a catchy and good nickname, and from that point on, the term Jeep became synonymous with what we know today as the Jeep. Now, as America and the Jeep entered World War II, according to legend, the first time...
Oh, I gotta see that again. Oh, that was cool.
Now, as America and the Jeep entered World War II, according to legend, the first time a Jeep was commandeered by the Germans, they showed it to a German general, and the generals and other officers were laughing at it. They couldn't believe that the great American military was fielding such a small, feeble, unarmored piece of equipment. What they didn't realize was this was not for frontline combat. This was for logistical support. This was for moving communications wire. This was for transporting troops, transporting the wounded, towing artillery, being able to move everything on the back end, and they didn't know that America was about to produce 650,000 of them over the course of World War II. That's almost 15,000 Jeeps being made every single month. That's almost 500 Jeeps a day. That's like 20 Jeeps an hour every fucking hour for all of World War II. And what most people don't realize about the Germans in World War II is they still relied heavily on horses for their logistics. During World War II, at its peak, the German military was using 2.7 million horses to transport troops and supplies. The common zeitgeist and conventional knowledge out there in the world is that, oh, the Germans, all their technology was better. America was just so much bigger, they couldn't help it. And there's some truth to that. Like, yeah, a German tank might have been better than a Sherman tank, and German trucks might have been better than the American Jeep, but the cost of being better meant that they were only able to produce a very small few. So, would you rather have, I don't know, 2.7 million horses feeding your logistics? Or would you rather have 650,000 Jeeps with machine guns being driven by pissed off 18-year-old farm kids? I'm taking the second one. And that's just the on-paper stuff. You gotta realize the grunts that are driving these things are masters of innovation when it comes to killing people. I mean, how good is your tank gonna be when I've got 600,000 dudes doing drive-bys out of the side of Jeeps with bazookas? I'm not kidding. Recon guys used to do that shit all the time back in World War II, and that's just assuming they're in a hurry. If they've got time and creativity on their side, back in Italy, there were guys making quad-mounted bazooka turrets for the back of their Jeeps. Okay.
God-mounted fucking bazookas! I'll take your entire stock! Holy shit, that's fucking glorious! Absolutely fucking glorious!
If you're not picking up what I'm putting down, this is like one of the most important innovations of World War II, and that's not just my opinion, that's General Eisenhower's opinion, and it's also probably the most underrated innovation of World War II. Whether it was intentional or not, it was absolutely genius. The idea of just giving the grunts a blank canvas that is an unstoppable four-wheel drive vehicle that's cheap and expendable and saying, here, go get the bad guy, and letting them do death arts and crafts projects on top of it. They didn't hamper the creativity, they enabled it. Okay, the Geneva Convention is going to be sitting off in the corner with a blank piece of paper and a clipboard like, holy shit, that's not illegal yet, but it's gonna be soon. Because I've said it once and I'll say it again, it's never a war crime the first time. Available at thefatelectrician.com.
No one knows this better than the Canadians.
Electrician.com. I mean, it's only going to get worse, too. I mean, after World War II, we literally had the Davy Crockett where they stuck a recoilless rifle, basically a big bazooka for all intents and purposes, and then mounted an atomic bomb to the end of it. So yeah, the big takeaway from the Jeep is make it mass producible, make it fast, make it cheap, make it four-wheel drive, and make it a blank canvas so the grunts can get creative with it. So the Jeep goes on to serve for like 5 decades after World War II, and then by the 1990s, it was time to upgrade it, so they come out with the Humvee, the high mobility multi-purpose vehicle, and basically the strategy was we're gonna make the Jeep 2.0, it's gonna be bigger, it's gonna have more horsepower, it's gonna be the Jeep, but better. And for the most part, they did a pretty good job. That's exactly what the Humvee was. It was just a light vehicle you could use for recon, it could tow stuff, it could transport stuff, it was pretty good off-road, it was great.
Yeah. Like, I have had the opportunity to ride and even drive a military Humvee. I had that opportunity back in the States. You know, you don't got a whole hell of a lot of power behind it. I mean, it's permanently four-wheel drive. It's bare bones as shit. But it's a good truck. There's a reason why the Humvee back in the 90s and even like into the early 2000s, there's a reason why Humvees became very popular on the civilian market. Okay? That like for those of you that may recall, like that actually saw on the street or saw the TV shows, like back in like the late 90s, like I'd say mid to late 90s, early 2000s, they made like civilian versions of the Humvee, and they were basically viewed as a status symbol. For fuck's sake, The Rock? Anybody remember the chase scene in The Rock where Sean Connery steals a civilian version of a military Humvee and goes flying down the streets of San Fran with it? Yeah. They were seen as, no, not the H2, Silva. No, not the H2s. The H1s. The H1s were civilianized versions of the military Humvee. They looked externally, they looked identical to the military's version of the Humvee. Internally, they were more comfort driven than the military's version. But externally, they looked identical to the military Humvee, just with the shinier gloss of paint instead of the flat paint scheme that the military had. And they're fucking huge. They were gas guzzlers like fucking crazy. But they were a status symbol. Like if you were a rich person back in the late 90s, you were buying a fucking Humvee. You were rolling in a Humvee. It was a status symbol. And then the H2s came out, and those were the smaller, higher. They were smaller in width. They had a higher wheelbase, and theoretically, I guess the engine was more fuel efficient. Yeah, and somebody jot, yeah, that was the problem. I think that's why they came out the H2, is there were too many problems with the engine coming straight out of the factory. But this tells you how fucking popular the Humvee was back then. It was so popular that if you were rich, you bought an H1 Humvee when they came out.
The only downside is that it wasn't as mass producible. They didn't have multiple companies all being able to make the same vehicle. They were all built by a company named AM General out of Indiana. It worked pretty good in the Gulf War, and then it worked pretty good at the very beginning of the global war on terror. But as the global war on terror devolved from more of a Iraq versus America, where there's, you know, uniformed soldiers versus uniformed soldiers, there's a front line established, and it turned into an insurgency where there are no lines and the enemy's just everywhere and pops up randomly, it became
TX. Yes, it was. The climactic battle escape. They had an H2. You are absolutely correct.
not so good. The Jeep and the Humvee are not armored vehicles. They were meant to transport troops to the front line. They were meant to go out on reconnaissance missions. They were not designed to patrol an area prone to guerrilla warfare and IEDs. So the grunts took...
Slight disagreement there. Some of the Humvees, depending on what your MOS was, some Humvees were lightly armored. Some Humvees actually had upgraded, more substantial armor. So they did up armor some Humvees, particularly in in the frontline combat MOSs. And even the non-frontline combat MOSs, I think their Humvees were still lightly armored. They could basically handle small arms fire. So pistol grade firearms and maybe the smaller side of rifle calibers. But they at least had some light armor on them.
Their blank canvas, the Humvee, and they adapted to the situation. They started welding iron plating on the side. They started finding bulletproof glass. They started making them armored vehicles to the best of their ability. And over time, the government saw what they were doing, so they just started doing it, but better. They came out with the up-armored Humvee. They turned the Humvee into a monstrosity that it was never built or intended to be. They added a bunch of armor. That made it significantly heavier, meaning that the engine was now underpowered. The suspension was underrated, reducing its off-road capability. The bulletproof glass windows were smaller with thick glass, making it hard to see out of.
I can't see fucking shit out of this thing.
The added weight in the undersized engine also meant that it was slower. It couldn't go as far on a single tank of fuel, and it was harder to transport. You can't airlift in multiple Humvees as fast when they weigh 5,000 pounds more each. Then as time went on, they came out with other vehicles that were actually designed to handle this type of combat. They came out with the MRAP, and then they came out with the JLTV, which is essentially an up-armored Humvee that was designed to be an up-armored Humvee. It has an engine.
Oh! Okay, that's a nice looking rig. I like that. That's actually a really nice looking truck. Huh. I'd love to I'd love to be able to drive one of those. Those things look fucking cool.
It was designed to be an up-armored Humvee. It has an engine appropriate size, a suspension that's the appropriate size. It was actually built to do what that does. Which brings us to today. Okay, just to recap, the military needs mobility. First, the military had horses. The horses turned into Model Ts. The Model Ts turned into Jeeps. The Jeeps turned into Humvees, and then the Humvees got bastardized and turned into a wannabe tank. So now the Army needs a new Jeep. Cue the Army's new program, the ISV, the Infantry Squad Vehicle, basically a Mad Max-style dune buggy. And as I said earlier, originally I had my doubts on this vehicle, but after going out to Fort Campbell and getting hands-on experience with this thing and researching into the historical context of what this vehicle is actually supposed to be and do, this thing is fucking awesome. And just so we're on the same page, the ISV is not replacing the up-armored Humvee. It's not replacing the MRAP. It's not replacing the JLTV. All of those are staying in the capacity that they're in. This is not going to be the primary vehicle for mechanized infantry. This vehicle is truly the Jeep 2.0. It is a logistical asset to move stuff and to move people. To move people, we've got the ISV, the Infantry Squad Vehicle that can seat 9 guys, aka an entire rifle squad. To move stuff, we have the Infantry Utility Vehicle, which can seat 4 guys and has a fucking truck bed. And when it is used...
Holy shit, those gun mounts! Holy shit, you got a turreted mount on top of the saw, and then you've got a door gunner with a mounted saw. I fucking love it. That is nice. Whoa!
truck bed. And when it is used in missions on the battlefield, it's not going to be used instead of an up-armored Humvee. It's going to be used instead of walking. Missions where the scope of the mission is to insert guys via helicopter, then they have to walk 10 to 15 miles to the objective and then get eyes on the target. Instead of that, now they're going to insert these guys with a helicopter. 2 ISVs fit inside of a fucking Chinook. They're going to drive dune buggies out the back of the helicopter, drive 8 miles to the objective, throw a camo net over the ISV, and then walk the last 2 miles. I can't stress to you enough what an advantage this is over walking, because now they're going to be able to bring in more shit. They're going to have more ammo, more food, more water, more medical supplies all readily available because they don't have to walk 15 miles with it strapped to their back. They're going to be better rested because they get to sleep in longer because they don't have to walk 15 miles. They get to drive 80% of the way there. And once they get to the objective, they're not going to be dog-ass tired again because they didn't have to walk 15 miles with 85 pounds of shit on their back.
Okay, one question I have, and he may address this, is what about colder weather environments? And again, I'm guessing this is probably going to be addressed, but you know, it's an all open dune buggy, and I have to imagine this might be used in some in countries where it's not a fucking desert. So okay, he does address it. Okay, I had a feeling he would, but I felt I needed to mention it because, like, in cold weather environments, you don't want to be driving in a fully, completely open, exposed vehicle. So.
Buh! I'd still rather have an armored vehicle. Buh! Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That wasn't an option. The question was not, do you want to drive an up-armored Humvee or a fucking dune buggy? The question was, do you want to fucking walk 15 miles and carry all the shit on your back, or do you want to drive the Warthog from Halo 3?
Warthogs, baby.
You're not getting an up-armored Humvee on a fucking recon mission, okay? A, they don't fit inside of a Chinook, so you'd have to sling load it, and even then, you can only sling load 1, and then it only seats 4 fucking guys, and a rifle squad has 9 dudes.
Oh! Yes! Yes!
Oh, fuck!
Yeah!
As opposed to the ISV that you can fit 2 of inside of a Chinook, and each one of them seats 9 guys. You can bring 17 other motherfuckers with you inside of the Mad Max dune buggy. Okay, don't get me wrong, I understand the logic. We had the original Humvee, and then we had to up-armor it and turn it into a wannabe tank, so why are we going back to an original Humvee? Okay, you can't fall into the fallacy of preparing for the last war. It never works. France in World War II, they prepared for the last war. France wasn't defenseless. They weren't not ready for the Germans. They had all their troops evenly lined up along the entire French border, ready to fight a World War I style battle because they prepared for the last war. Germany rolled up with tanks and the Blitzkrieg punched right through their line and then went straight into their capitals and took over the entire country. You can.
And this has been the fallacy. I've heard this expression from military commentators for years, is that so often countries do exactly what Nick said. They come out of a war, so when they prepare for war, they prepare for war in the way that they just fought, when your enemy is always looking for a different way to conduct war because they just fucking lost the last one. So because they lost the last one, they're not actually going to facilitate the same tactics, the same equipment that they did before because they lost that. So they're actually thinking ahead of, okay, what can we do to counteract what didn't work the last time, or what stopped us the last time? And that has been the biggest. I think that is currently the driving force, at least in the U.S. I don't know about other countries, but that's been the driving force: is don't prepare for the last conflict we just got done doing. Prepare for the one that we don't know is coming yet. You know, basically get so far out ahead that any attack is going to easily be repelled because we've already thought 5 steps ahead of what our enemy might be coming at us with. So when the enemy comes at us, we've already got 1,500 different ways of counteracting it without even trying.
You can never prepare for the last war because war changes so fast. Imagine telling an Iraq or an Afghanistan veteran, oh, hey, in 10 years, Russia and Ukraine are going to be in a war, and they're going to have these things called drones. Long story short, the IEDs, they're going to fly.
I'm sorry. You said they're in the air now. You're kidding, right? Because it was already impossible to find them when they were in the ground. They were in the ground. Everyone says to look for trash. Spoiler alert, the whole country's full of trash. It's bad. Like, you couldn't find anything. And it was hidden. It was like, look for it. It was impossible to find. Now they're airborne. That's got to be a new nightmare that I don't want to understand. And on top of that, there's only one thing that can make this worse. One thing. If we put them on top of sharks with laser beams on their heads, that way they can have land, sea, and air. I mean, it's too much, really.
I was waiting for it.
Right.
Everything changes in war at a rapid pace. The only thing you can do to prepare for it is prepare to have solid fundamentals. And those fundamentals are the core of what made the Jeep great. You need to be able to move troops and supplies fast, efficiently, and with a mass-produced option. And in that regard, the ISV is fucking perfect. I keep calling the ISV a dune buggy because that's what it looks like, but in reality, it's a Chevy Colorado with a different setup on top. Meaning that unlike the Humvee and more so like the Jeep, it's a mass-produced vehicle and parts are gonna be easy to come by. The engine, the transmission, the suspension, everything. It's all Chevy Colorado parts. You can literally go to O'Reilly's or AutoZone in your town right now and buy ISV parts. And not only is this thing mass producible, but it crushes the Humvee in every other category that you could possibly care about. Are they faster? Absolutely. They're way fucking faster than a Humvee, okay? I've driven soft Humvees, I've driven up-armored Humvees, I've driven ambulance Humvees. Humvees don't have an accelerator. They have a pedal on the floor that makes more fucking noise. Those things struggle to hit 55 going downhill on a paved road. And even when you do hit 55, it feels like you're re-entering the Earth's fucking atmosphere. The ISV, on the other hand, is going 85 miles an hour down a dirt road. And it's way better at off-roading. I've done the off-roading Army course, both in the Humvee and the ISV, and the ISV fucking crushes it. I mean, I rode in the ISV for the off-road course. I didn't drive. And at no point during my trip to Fort Campbell did the NCO in charge tell me to turn the cameras off and then let me drive. That did not happen.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Buh! It doesn't have any windows or doors. Imagine how cold it'd be in the winter. Buh! Okay, this isn't sinking in for some of you. I'll say it slower. Motherfucker, the options are, do you want to walk 15 miles in the snow in winter? Or do you want to take the Warthog from Halo 3? Those are the fucking options. Anybody with a brain is taking the Warthog.
Okay, Revan, I didn't do the it's cold. I asked, what if it's the cold? What is the, is there something, is there an equipment package that can be installed onto the ISV if you were in a cold weather scenario? I didn't it. I was asking, is there anything?
And it doesn't have a full front windshield for multiple reasons. One, you're not going to have glare if you're using night vision at night. Two, you're not going to have mud and shit getting flung up on the window waiting for the windshield wipers to work. And three, so you can shoot out the fucking front. Every car chase action movie ever, first thing that happens, window gets shattered, good guy has to push the window out of the car to be able to return fire or to see to drive. We're just going to eliminate that situation right out of the gate. Now, fair criticism, why the fuck isn't there a turret on the top? And to be fair, I agree, that would look dope as shit. However, then it wouldn't fit as well inside of the helicopters, so they compromised and they put swivel mounts on either side so that the gunners for the 240 and the SAW can mount their machine guns out the side. Which made me ask the 101st Airborne one simple question.
I don't know if it's changed your training at all. Like, in a Humvee, you pull up.
Is there a drive-by course?
Oh, God damn it.
Now, on the record, I kind of received no comment to that question, but could you imagine how awesome that would be, having an expert marksmanship badge for drive-bys?
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So just so we're all on the same page up until this point, it's mass producible, it's faster, it carries more people, you can fit more of them on a helicopter, and it's better at off-roading. And the sixth bullet point, holy shit, is it significantly quieter than a Humvee. Like, you can stand next to the ISV and have a normal...
Okay, this is not surprising. The Humvee is a diesel-powered monstrosity. I'm guessing the ISV is probably standard gasoline-powered engine. He said it's basically it's a Colorado, so it's literally just using normal gasoline. Is it diesel? Is the ISV also diesel? Okay, I thought, given the fact that he was saying it was a Colorado, I thought it was just a standard unleaded. It's a Chevy turbo diesel. Okay, I mean, Chevy turbo diesels are still quiet. we're not talking about like the monster the monster diesels where it's like rattling like fucking crazy when you turn them over. It's the standard sized diesel engines are as quiet as the unleaded gas power engines.
Conversation at a normal talking voice and completely hear each other. A Humvee you can hear from 150 fucking yards away.
So you can already hear it from here. It's louder from here than that is standing next to it, but I guess we'll just walk closer. You can hear how fucking loud.
That's insane.
So, significantly louder.
If you hear that, democracy's on its way.
The Humvee's rocking a 190 horsepower V8, and the ISV is rocking a 186 horsepower 4-cylinder turbo diesel Duramax.
So much torque. The chassis twisted coming off the line.
Now, I asked about miles per gallon on the Humvee versus the ISV. I was told that the ISV is significantly better. However, giving me the official stat on what the gas mileage is was classified information because then, the enemy could make plans around, how far the ISV can travel, blah, 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 blah. Translation, the military doesn't have to abide by EPA emissions regulations, and they don't want you to know that this thing probably gets like 70 miles to the gallon. I was also told by several GM technicians, aka mechanics, that not having all the EPA emissions bullshit inside of this vehicle makes the engine way more reliable. And the best part, it's cheaper. A brand new Humvee, a soft shell Humvee, not an up armored Humvee, a soft Humvee. The direct comparison to what this vehicle is supposed to be is $233,000 brand new. This thing is $153,000. Don't get me wrong, 153 grand's a shit ton of money, but when we're talking about DOD money, it's fucking pocket change. It's literally nothing. A single Javelin missile is like $200,000, and you're getting this dune buggy for $153. It's not a deal, but it's the best thing the United States military is gonna get. So in conclusion, despite my initial reservations about the ISV, I now realize that those reservations were based off of the fallacy of preparing for the last war and not looking at the historical precedent. And that precedent is that the United States military, and probably every other military on the planet, is...
Well, shit up! I was about to ask a question. 500,000 miles, Yorda. Wow. God, I love that Duramax. Holy shit, that is impressive. Damn. I mean, it's a diesel engine. That's, very good. And Onizuka, thank you for the 10 gifteds. Thank you so very much.
Always going to need a mass-producible, cheap, fast way to transport troops and equipment around the battlefield, and in that regard, the ISV is absolutely perfect and a humongous upgrade over the Humvee. Don't forget to go check out pepperbox.tv, where you can see the entire episode of me, habitual line crosser and veteran with a sign, going out to Fort Campbell. Pepperbox is actually my streaming service. I'm one of the owners. Me and some of my other YouTube buddies got together. We created this platform. There's an app on your phone. You can get it on your smart TV. You can watch me and like 20 other big YouTube creators' content there. It's all ad-free and uncensored. And there's a ton of other exclusive content on there as well. Thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. I can't wait till these things hit the surplus market in like 10 years because I'm buying like 7 of them.
This is a
Duramax
big boy.
Is cool, but I prefer Cummins or Power Stroke Wall.
Give me big boy. I agree with what Nick is saying here. The minute these things hit the open market, you're going to see everybody that lives in basically the South is going to want one. And of course, the dealers, they're going to do it. They're going to rig them up. So they're going to have some kind of they'll do like a cloth top for inclement weather, and maybe like cloth, and maybe they'll do like with the old, hang on, let me let, what
I can't wait till these things
say
hit the surplus market in like 10 years because I'm buying like 5 of them.
Yeah, like what he's talking about there, I could see that, like where the manufacturers, like for the civilian market, they'll make it like a cloth top and side, like they used to do with the Jeeps.
We didn't drive it, but if we did, I bet Ethan's the kind of guy that would complain about the throttle and then realize he left the parking brake on the whole fucking time.
That would be so embarrassing if that happened.
That would be super embarrassing if that happened, because we're not allowed to drive.
I mean, this is the thing. If that were to happen, my excuse would be that I'm the missile guy, not the truck guy, okay?
Yeah.
What do you drive to get to the missiles, fuckhead?
LMTVs, not that.
A truck?
Yeah, my guess is when they do hit the open market, the manufacturer probably throw cloth top and doors on, kind of like how the Jeeps used to be. Like Jeeps back in the day used to have the soft top, which everybody knows, but Jeeps also had like doors. They weren't like steel doors; they were all cloth doors with just latches to close. And I imagine that once they hit the civilian market, they will probably do the same thing with those. And they'd be awesome. They'd be absolutely fucking awesome.